Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Hidden inside these words is a pain almost no one warns a parent about. It may not come on the wedding day. Sometimes it comes years later, when your son says, "For Christmas we are going home." For one warm heartbeat, you are glad. Then you understand that home is what he called another house. You answer, "Of course, do what is easiest for you." The call ends. You hold the phone for several seconds, walk back to the table and remove one plate. You do not cry. You simply carry the plate back to the cupboard and stand there a moment with it in your hands, as if you have forgotten why you rose. The other places are still set. The room still expects them. And now the wound is no longer only about Christmas. A question rises that you have been ashamed to speak even to yourself. Am I still needed? Listen carefully. Scripture does not ask you to pretend that this change cannot hurt, but it reveals a distinction many parents miss until cold politeness has already entered the family. Leave father and mother does not mean cease to honor father and mother. The new family truly does become first for your grown child, but the first family does not become nothing. This is where parents usually make one of two mistakes. Some fight to recover the old place. They count holidays and calls, compare themselves with the other family, and remind the child of every sacrifice. Others do the opposite. They smile, say they need nothing, and slowly disappear, hoping the child will notice their silence. But Scripture contains a third place. It is not the center, yet it is not the place of a forgotten person. It has a name. Once you understand it, you will know how to bless the family your child has built without competing with it or erasing yourself. For now, remember only this. When painful news catches you unprepared, do not give the phone the first sentence that rises from the wound. Allow one breath to pass. Sometimes, in that brief silence, love has time to choose the words that let the conversation continue. One mother needed that single breath on a Christmas evening. She had laid the table for 6, though her son had promised nothing. She brought out the cloth she had used since he was a boy. His favorite pie was already cooling in the kitchen. The phone rang near evening. Her son spoke tenderly. That made the next words hurt even more. "Mom, this year we will be with Emily's family." She looked at the 6 plates and said, "Of course, son, I understand." She was about to say goodbye. A hard knot had risen in her throat, the kind that makes the voice sound too calm. In other years, she would have added, "Well, do whatever you want." Her son would have heard permission. Yet behind those words would have stood a closed door he would have to force open during the next call. This time the mother looked at the pie and spoke differently. "I will miss you, but I am glad you are caring for Emily's family. When you come back, let us choose an evening of our own. I want to see you without anyone watching the clock." The line went quiet. Then her son exhaled. "Thank you, Mom. I was afraid to tell you." Those words wounded her more deeply than the changed holiday. Another family was not the deepest hurt. Her son had begun to fear the truth in the presence of his own mother. She sat down. "Why were you afraid?" Her son hesitated. "Last year when we left for 2 hours to visit Emily's parents, you hardly spoke to her afterward. You said everything was fine, but it was not fine." The mother wanted to defend herself. She had not raised her voice, blamed Emily, or spoiled the meal with an open quarrel. She had only become quiet, and suddenly she saw what she had missed. Resentment does not always enter a house shouting. In respectable, even devout homes, it often arrives without a sound. It sets out the cups, smiles at the guests, and says, "I need nothing." Then it makes everyone in the room pay for what no one was allowed to name. Hear this well. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes it is pain trying to appear righteous. If you are looking not for easy comfort, but for the wisdom that keeps love alive when your place in the family changes, subscribe and stay with us. The mother ran one finger along the edge of the tablecloth. For the first time, she did not see only the bare places at the table. She saw her son standing between 2 women he loved, wondering which one he would be forced to wound. The question itself changed. No longer, why did he choose them? Now it was, why must he choose when he is with me? Wisdom often begins there. It does not deny your hurt or declare you guilty of everything. It simply brings a lamp into the place where resentment has already given each person a different story. Son, the mother said, last year I was hurt, but I should not have punished Emily with my silence. He did not answer at once. She heard only his breathing. She expected him to hurry and comfort her as he had done before. Instead, he said something else. I wanted you to see it for yourself. There was no cruelty in those words. There was only the weariness of a grown man who had tried too long to keep peace without speaking truth. And here the first hidden distinction appears. Honor does not require a grown child to protect a parent from every painful feeling. Sometimes honor is the courage to tell the truth and trust that your love can bear it. The mother closed her eyes. I see it now. Only then did her son tell her what she did not know. Emily's mother had received troubling test results. Surgery lay ahead. No one was speaking of the worst, but the whole family was living under the shadow of the next call from the hospital. Their Christmas decision had not been a vote against her. They were going where their presence was needed more that year. The mother turned once more toward the 6 places. Nothing there had changed. Yet the distant gathering no longer resembled the headquarters of people who had taken her son. She could see a frightened woman waiting for surgery and a daughter trying not to imagine the worst. Her eyes moved toward the pie cooling in the kitchen. Take it with you tomorrow, she said. The pie? Mom, you made that for us. I made it for Christmas. This year, Christmas is needed at her table. Her son did not answer at once. The mother reached for a clean box. As she folded the paper around the pie, a hard truth became almost tender. She had taught her son to remain beside the person entrusted to him. Now his faithfulness was carrying him toward another house. The fruit had grown on her tree, but its shade had fallen across someone else's door. Tell Emily I am thinking of her mother, she said. And do not worry about me on Christmas Day, but I still want our evening after you return. Her son laughed for the first time in the call. Agreed, and save 1 slice for our evening. The mother smiled. You will have to earn it. The call ended more warmly than it began. Yet when the screen went dark, she remained seated for a long time. On Christmas afternoon, Emily sent a short message. Mom ate a whole slice. It was the first thing she asked for today. Thank you. The mother read it twice. No chair had returned to her dining room. Something else had happened. The gathering she had feared was now receiving a gift from her hands. One good conversation still could not answer the most frightening question. What if the child is not standing between 2 families that need them? What if they have truly grown used to remembering you last? Scripture does not ask you to rename indifference as adulthood. The next step is how you learn the difference between a changed place and a relationship quietly being abandoned. There is one way to find out. Stop guessing long enough to speak one request without accusation. 3 weeks later, the mother opened her phone and saw a photograph of her grandson. Noah stood on a school stage in a paper crown. Beside him were her son, Emily, and the child's other grandparents. The caption read, Noah's first performance. She enlarged the picture. At the edge of the front bench, she saw an empty space, and the old pain returned. For one painful moment, it seemed the Christmas conversation had changed nothing after all. She began to type, What a beautiful photograph. It is a shame Noah has only one grandmother. Her finger was already above the button. Then she stopped. The sentence would have brought one moment of relief. Her son might feel guilty, call at once, and begin defending himself. But no explanation would answer the real question. Had he meant to leave her outside, or had he never understood that she wanted to enter? The next morning she called him. I saw Noah's photograph. He looked very solemn in his crown. Her son laughed. He says we cannot throw it away until next Christmas. She laughed too. The tension eased, but she did not let the conversation escape into harmless details. It hurt to learn about the performance after it was over. If there were only a few tickets, I can understand. But please tell me beforehand. I want to decide for myself when I am able to come." The line became quiet. "Mom, I thought you would not want to drive home after dark." Now she was the one who said nothing. Months earlier, she had mentioned that night driving had become difficult. Her son remembered. He had simply made a decision she never asked him to make. "Sometimes I truly cannot," she said, "but do not close the door for my safety before asking whether I wish to enter." Her son answered softly, "I never thought of it that way." He had not meant to remove her from Noah's life. He meant to protect her, but care without a question had become a locked door. This happens more often than families admit. Grown children remember that stairs have become difficult, so they stop inviting a parent where there are steps. They hear weariness in your voice and call less because they do not want to disturb you. They believe they are making life easier. You sit in the quiet and conclude that you have become unnecessary. That is why an invitation you did not receive cannot by itself tell you what place you hold. Sometimes love has not disappeared. It has simply drawn the wrong conclusion. But the conclusion will not change while your desire stays hidden behind, "I am fine." The mother did not ask to be included in everything. She asked her son not to decide for her. A week later, he sent a photograph of the school calendar. "Choose the events you would truly like to attend." She selected the spring concert. Not every celebration, not every game. One evening she could manage and genuinely wanted to share. Then her son added, "There is an open rehearsal before it. I will drive you myself." At that moment, she understood that her place had not returned to its former shape. Once her son had needed her because he could not reach school without her. Now he was studying the route so he could bring her to his child. The direction had changed, the care had not. At the open rehearsal, Noah came through the school doors, saw both grandmothers, and ran first to Emily's mother. The choice was made without thought. She was the grandmother who collected him on Tuesdays, knew the names of his friends, and kept his favorite cup in her kitchen. The mother opened her arms, then lowered them before anyone noticed how long they had remained empty. Do not pretend such a moment cannot hurt, but do not turn that first step into a judgment the child never meant to pronounce. Nearness has its own advantage. The person who shares the ordinary days becomes familiar in a way that photographs and holiday visits cannot imitate. You cannot defeat distance by demanding that a child feel what time has not yet been allowed to build. But there is an old secret about memory. Scripture often fastens remembrance to a day, a meal, or a small sign, not because truth is weak, but because the human heart holds on to what is given a faithful form. The same wisdom can give a distant grandparent a place no one else needs to lose. After the rehearsal, the mother sat beside Noah and asked what happened to the paper crown from his first performance. "It is in my room," he said. "Dad says I have to throw it away." "Then before it disappears," she replied, "you and I should invent the story of the king who wore it." That Wednesday they spoke by video for 6 minutes. Noah named the king. The following week he added a dragon. On the third call he had forgotten, but when his father whispered, "The crown story," he ran to find the crumpled paper and returned to the screen. Weeks later, at the spring concert, Noah did not run past her. He caught her hand before she had removed her coat. "Do you want to know what the dragon did?" He delivered the newest part of the story in one breath. The king had lost his crown, the dragon had hidden it inside a washing machine, and only a grandmother knew which button could open the secret door. When Noah ran back toward his teacher, Emily's mother remained beside the coat rack. They had not met since the surgery. A pale line disappeared beneath the collar of the woman's dress, and one hand still moved carefully when she lifted her bag. "I never thanked you for the pie," Emily's mother said. "For several days it was the only food that tasted like anything. I am glad it reached you." Both women looked toward the children. The easy conversation ended there, but neither of them walked away. "May I tell you something uncomfortable?" the other grandmother asked. The mother felt her shoulders stiffen. "Yes. I almost stayed home today. Emily said you were coming, and I thought my being here might make the day harder for you." The words were spoken without accusation. That made them impossible to dismiss. "There was a time when it would have," the mother answered. "I counted how often Noah reached for you." Emily's mother nodded. "I knew." The mother expected some small triumph in the answer. Instead, the woman lowered herself slowly onto a bench and pressed one hand against her side. "I collect him on Tuesdays because Mark and Emily cannot leave work. Some weeks he talks to me all the way home. Some weeks he kicks the back of my seat and refuses to put on his shoes. By dinner, I am tired enough to envy the grandmother who gets the dragon stories." The mother laughed before she could stop herself. "The dragon is not as obedient as you imagine. Neither is Noah." For the first time, Tuesday did not sound like a prize someone else had won. "I was angry with you before I knew about the surgery," the mother said. "I had convinced myself there was nothing left for me near Noah. And I believed you blamed me for saying yes whenever they needed help." For a while, neither of them spoke. On the stage, a child forgot a line, and both women leaned forward at the same instant. The old reflex of two grandmothers who cannot help a child they can only watch. They caught themselves, and something in the shared movement was almost a laugh. "He is mine on Tuesdays," Emily's mother said at last, "and yours on Wednesdays. I used to keep count. Now I just think it is good he has both of us." No quick friendship appeared between them. Years of caution do not vanish because two people finally speak one honest sentence. But the rivalry now had a face, a scar, and a tired hand resting on a school bench. Noah returned and took one grandmother on either side, pulling them toward the row of painted scenery. Neither woman asked which hand he preferred. At the parking lot, Emily's mother called after her. "The concert next month ends after dark. If you want to come, I can bring you home." The mother almost answered that she would manage. Then she remembered the door her son had once closed for her safety. "Yes," she said, "I would like that." The first hand a child reaches for is not always a final verdict. Sometimes it is only the first page of a bond that still needs its own story. Not every story opens that quickly. Sometimes you speak plainly, ask without accusation, and leave room for the new family, yet your child still answers coldly. They promise to call and forget. They welcome your help, but overlook your loneliness. Then another question rises. How many times must love knock on a closed door? For a moment, leave the family doorway and stand beside the Jordan. The water keeps moving while the crowd around John grows thinner. Then his own followers approach with news they believe should wound him. Everyone is leaving. He must increase, but I must decrease. John chapter 3, verse 30. These words belong first to Christ. John was naming the Messiah before whom every messenger must become small. Yet the wound brought to him that day is one many parents know. Everyone is going to him now, they said. They brought John arithmetic. Fewer people beside his river, more people following Jesus. To them, another man's increase could only mean their teacher's loss. John answered them with a wedding. He called Christ the bridegroom and himself the bridegroom's friend. Then he said, "The friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly at the bridegroom's voice. Therefore this joy of mine is now complete." Most people hear the word decrease. An elder should also hear the word stands. A messenger does not fail when the message reaches its destination. John knew where his voice ended and where the bridegroom's voice began. He did not vanish from the river as a useless man. He stood and listened. Here is the hidden name for the parent's third place. Not ruler of the new household, not stranger at its door, friend of the covenant. In this third place, the elder does not claim the couple's place and does not disappear from the celebration. The parent stands near enough to hear joy in the new home and refuses to make that joy prove who matters most. Which is harder for you, releasing the old place or admitting plainly that you still miss your child? Tell us in the comments. Another parent's honest answer may give someone else the courage to speak. This sounds peaceful beside the river, It becomes harder inside your child's kitchen. One Sunday, the same mother arrives carrying the dish everyone once expected her to make. Mark opens the door with a child on one hip. Emily is moving between the stove and the table, trying to finish 3 things at once. Without thinking, she steps into the old motion. She opens a cupboard, moves a serving bowl, and lowers the oven because the meat is browning too quickly. Her body remembers being the woman who knew how every family meal should run. Then Emily says, gently but firmly, "I have it. Please sit down." The room changes temperature. The mother's hand is still resting on the oven dial. She hears something Emily may not have said. This is not your kitchen, not your table, not your family anymore. Mark looks down at the child in his arms. He has heard the meaning beneath Emily's words, and he is waiting to see which woman he will have to defend. The words, "I was only trying to help," are already in her throat. Her fingers tighten around the dish. Mark shifts the child higher against his shoulder and waits. Instead, she takes her hand off the dial. "Of course," she says, "tell me where you would like this." Nothing dramatic happens. No one applauds. Emily points to the counter. Mark breathes again, and the child reaches toward the spoon in his grandmother's hand. Later, while the dishes are being cleared, Emily asks how the sauce was made. The question comes only because the older woman did not force her usefulness into the kitchen. She left enough space for her gift to be wanted. The mother begins naming the ingredients. Halfway through, Emily wipes her hands on a towel and says, "Could you write it down?" Mark remembers the taste, but when he tries to explain it, every amount becomes some. Mark smiles from the sink. "That is how Mom taught me. Some butter. Enough flour, stop when it looks right." Then Emily says, "There is something else I should tell you." Mark turns off the water. "When you changed the oven, I knew you were trying to help, but I had planned this meal all week. The moment your hand touched that dial, I felt as if I were 12 again, with someone standing behind me to check my work." The meat had been browning too quickly. She had been right about the temperature, and for one moment that fact feels more urgent than the woman in front of her. But being right about the meat would not answer the woman standing before her. "I did not mean to make you feel small," she says. "I know, but sometimes Mark tells me, just let Mom do it, she knows how." He thinks he is keeping peace. What I hear is that everything is easier when I just step aside and let you take over. Mark lowers the plate in his hands. "I have said that," he admits. The mother looks at the oven, then back at Emily. "What would help next time?" Emily looks surprised by the question. "Bring the lemon cake. Sit with Noah while I finish dinner, and if I am about to burn something, ask before you save it." The mother laughs. "Even if smoke is already in the air?" "If there is smoke, you may act without permission." The laughter does not erase the sting. It gives the truth somewhere gentle to land. A month later, Emily calls on a Saturday. She has bought everything for the sauce, and it has already gathered into small, pale lumps. The mother sees at once what must be done, and her hand tightens around the back of a chair. "Do you want me to tell you or show you?" she asks. "Show me this time. Tell me next time." Only then does the older hand take the spoon. She lowers the heat, stirs from the edge toward the center, and gives the spoon back. Emily copies the motion until the sauce turns smooth. That evening, Emily sends a photograph of the stained recipe card beside the empty pan. Under it, she writes, "I am keeping the card." Sometimes the most mature hand in the room is the one that first lets go of the oven dial. The stained card wakes a memory the mother has avoided for years. Long ago, she stood in her own kitchen as the younger woman, with children pulling at her sleeve. Her husband's parents had already made holiday plans, and she called her own mother to say she would not be there on the day she was expected. She remembered her reasons. The drive was shorter, the baby slept better there. Her husband had asked, and she was trying to keep peace inside the home she now lived in. Her mother paused on the telephone. Then she said the same sentence. "Of course, whatever is easiest." After the call, her mother may have folded the same towel twice and removed the plate from the chair where her daughter would not sit. Until this season, the mother had never understood what happened in that kitchen. She had not been abandoning her mother. She had been protecting the peace of the household she was building. Her mother had not been foolish for hurting. She had simply reached the same door years earlier and was standing on its other side. One generation understands leaving. The next season teaches it what remaining costs. The photograph of the recipe card is still open on the mother's phone when Mark calls 3 weeks later and asks if he may come by alone. He arrives after work but does not remove his coat. He turns the car keys over in his hand while she pours coffee he does not touch. "I was offered the position," he says. She knows about the interviews. She does not yet understand the coat, the untouched cup, or the way he keeps glancing toward the dark window. "The one across town?" "The one in North Carolina." The room becomes very still. He begins explaining the work, the schools, the health insurance, and the house they could afford. She hears every word and understands none of them until he says, "We accepted yesterday." Accepted. The word means Emily knew. It means maps had been opened, salaries compared, neighborhoods searched, and a future discussed at a table where his mother had not been sitting. The old thought comes so fast she hears it in her own voice before she can stop it. First the holidays, then the kitchen. Now you take the child 6 hours away. Mark's face closes. And in the silence she hears what she has done. She has taken the hardest news of his life and turned it into an accusation. "That was unfair," she says. "Emily did not apply for the job. You did. Forgive me." Mark does not soften. "I know you are sorry," he says, "but that is exactly why I came alone. I could not tell you and watch Emily defend herself in the same room." He turns the untouched cup once by its handle. A brown ring has formed beneath it. Neither of them reaches for a cloth. The apology remains between them without becoming a bridge. The mother cannot hurry him across it. "How long have you been deciding?" she asks. "A few weeks." "You spoke to your wife first." "I did. If I took it, her work would change. Noah would change schools. She would be the one building a daily life there with me." The truth is plain, and still it hurts. "I know that is right," she says. "I do not yet know how to bear it." Mark finally looks at her. "I did not want you to hear it after everything was settled. That is why I came tonight, to tell you face to face." She glances at his coat. "But it is settled." "The contract is. The leaving has only begun. There are 6 weeks, a house to pack, and a little boy who thinks the moving truck is coming only for his toys." "How far?" she asks. "A little over 6 hours. 6 hours is close enough for promises and far enough to end ordinary Wednesdays." She sees the paper crown on her shelf. Noah left it there after the dragon story and made her swear no one would throw it away. "Does he know?" "We told him this morning. He wants to know whether dragons are allowed to cross state lines." The mother almost laughs. The sound catches behind her ribs. "What did you tell him?" "That we would ask the expert." Then Mark says the sentence that reaches the deepest place. "Emily's mother is coming tomorrow. We thought the two of you might help us sort Noah's things on Saturday." For one instant, the mother hears only the other grandmother's name. Even this grief will not belong to her alone. Then she remembers Tuesdays, the school traffic, the kicked seat, the shoes Noah refused to wear. Emily's mother is not keeping the ordinary days. She is losing them too. "Tell her I will be there," she says. On Saturday, the house is filled with open boxes. Mark wraps dishes in old newspapers. Emily writes room names in thick black letters. Noah sits inside the largest carton and announces that it is a ship. The two grandmothers kneel beside a pile marked "Keep," "Give away," and "Maybe." Between them lies a red sweater Noah has outgrown. Emily's mother folds it once, then opens it again. "I picked him up in this the first winter he started school," she says. He spilled chocolate milk before we reached the car. The mother runs one finger over a pale mark near the cuff. He wore it the day the dragon lost the crown. Neither woman says, "At least you had every Tuesday." Neither asks whose memory should weigh more. Across the room, Emily lifts the stained recipe card from the counter. "This goes with us," she says. The mother nods, but the sight of her own handwriting entering a box makes the move real in a way the distance had not. The recipe will live in the new kitchen. Her chair will not. She watches Emily's mother lay the red sweater in the box marked "Keep," then set the Tuesday key on the ring where it will hang unused. And she understands something no one says aloud. Emily is not carrying her family away from two grandmothers as if she had won a prize. She is leaving the woman she calls when she cannot manage the day. The mother had counted the miles between herself and Mark. She had not counted the same miles between Emily and her own mother. She does not know whether Emily has forgiven her old suspicion. Some questions do not get answered on packing day. She only knows that the loss in this house belongs to more people than her. Noah climbs out of the carton and finds the paper crown beneath a stack of books. "Wednesday is still story day," he says. Mark answers too quickly. "Of course it is." The mother hears the promise adults make when they want to protect a child from a future none of them has tested. She sits on the floor beside Noah. "Wednesday can still be our day," she says. "But some Wednesdays may move. New schools have their own dragons." He frowns. "Then how will you know what happens?" "You will have to send me a report." "A secret report?" "Especially the dangerous parts." He considers this, then places the crown in her lap instead of the moving box. "You keep it until the first call, so you do not forget." The mother closes her hands around the bent paper. She wants to make them promise every Wednesday, every holiday, every visit, before the first box leaves the room. But a promise pulled out of people under the pressure of departure can sound faithful and still become a chain. At the doorway, Emily's mother stands holding the red sweater again. "They asked whether I want to keep this," she says. "I do not know why a sweater can feel heavier than a child." The mother looks at the woman whose place beside Noah once seemed to leave no room for her. "Because he grew out of it before we were ready," she says. That evening, the paper crown rests on the mother's table beside the dragon notebook. The move is settled. The shape of what will remain is not. 6 weeks later, the moving truck stands in Mark's driveway with its rear door open. The rooms that once made his house feel crowded now carry every voice too clearly. Tape tears from a roll in the kitchen. Noah runs from one bare room to another, delighted by the echo. The adults are careful not to look at the marks the furniture has left on the carpet. The mother carries the last lamp toward the truck. Near the front door, she sees a small box with "Wednesday" written across the top in Noah's uneven letters. Inside are 3 drawings, a flashlight, and the cardboard sword that belonged to the dragon. The paper crown is waiting on her desk at home for the first call. For one dark second, she wants to take the box home. If something important stays behind, there will be a reason for them to return. She lifts it instead and carries it to Noah. "Your kingdom nearly missed the truck," she says. He takes the box with both hands. "The crown is with you, so part of the kingdom is here and part is there." Children sometimes speak lightly over the place where adults have searched all day for wisdom. Emily's mother is standing beside the car with a lunch bag for the road. Her Tuesday key hangs from the same ring it always did, though there will be no school pickup next week. Mark closes the truck. The metal door comes down with a sound too final for an ordinary morning. Noah hugs one grandmother, then the other. No one times the embraces. "Wednesday," he reminds his grandmother, "I will have the crown ready." The cars pull away. She stands at the curb and lifts one hand, though the car is already turned and no one is looking back to see it. She keeps it raised a moment longer anyway. Then she lowers it and remains beside the strip of pale grass where the truck had stood until the street is quiet again. She walks back into her own house, which has not moved an inch, and yet feels farther from her grandson than it did this morning. That night she finds a toy wheel beneath the sofa and sets it on the windowsill. There is no lesson in the small object. It is simply proof that a child was here and is not here now. On the first Wednesday, she sets the paper crown against the lamp and opens the notebook where the dragon stories live. 6 o'clock passes, then 6:15. At 6:40 she types, "I see Wednesday did not survive the move." She reads the sentence and deletes it. At 7:12, Mark calls. A cupboard door is open behind him. Somewhere out of sight, Noah is crying. "Mom, I am sorry. The school meeting ran late, the grocery delivery went to the wrong building, and Noah cannot find the box with his nightlight." She looks at the crown waiting beside the lamp. The broken promise is real. So is the room behind her son's face. Is he frightened? He says the new house sounds different when the lights are off. "Put me on the table. Do not make him come to the camera." Mark carries the phone into the bedroom. For several minutes, the mother sees only a tilted ceiling and the edge of an unopened carton. Then Noah's voice comes from beneath a blanket. "You forgot story day." "I remembered," she says, "but I did not know the dragon had reached a dark house." The blanket moves. "He does not know where the door is." "Then tonight we will not make him find it. We will sit with him until he learns the sounds." She begins a story without the crown, without the notebook, and without the ending she had prepared. The dragon lies awake in a house whose walls he does not yet trust. The pipes knock. A branch drags across an unfamiliar window. The refrigerator hums a note the old house never made. One sound at a time, the grandmother teaches the dragon to name them. The knock is only water learning the new pipes. The scratch at the glass is a tree saying hello. The hum is the kitchen keeping the milk cold until morning. A house does not become home when it goes silent, she tells him. It becomes home when you know the names of its noises. Noah's breathing grows slower. Somewhere in the naming, the strange house stops being an enemy. Before the dragon reaches morning, the child is asleep. Mark carries the phone back to the kitchen. "Thank you," he whispers. The mother could ask why one school meeting erased a promise made 6 weeks ago. Instead, she says, "Wednesday may need a new hour. It may need a new day for a while." That answer hurts more than an apology. A changed hour can be repaired. A changed day admits that the life they knew no longer fits inside the new one. "Then do not promise every Wednesday," she says. "Tell me which day you can really keep." Mark looks over his shoulder toward the bedroom. "Sunday afternoon. Not every week at first. Twice a month, and we will put the dates on the calendar." Twice a month sounds small beside every Wednesday. It is also the first promise made after the move, instead of before it. "Send me the dates," she says. The next morning, a photograph arrives. Noah has drawn the new house as a crooked square. A dragon stands outside it with 1 foot in the old state and 1 foot in the new. Across the top, he has written, "The door moved." The mother pins the drawing above her desk. On the first Sunday call, Noah shows her the cafeteria, his new teacher's name, and a boy who can whistle through his fingers. None of it belongs to the old kingdom. That is precisely why she listens. Then she raises the paper crown. "Do you still need this?" Noah shakes his head. "Keep it. Then the dragon will not forget the old house." The mother closes her hand around the crown. She can remember the beginning without demanding that the child live inside it forever. The next appointed Sunday is different. Noah appears on the screen wearing 1 shoe. A boy is calling his name from somewhere beyond the camera. Through the open window comes the sharp bounce of a basketball on pavement. "Grandma, do we have to do the dragon today?" There is no emergency behind the question. No adult has forgotten the calendar. No one has misunderstood her strength or tried to protect her from a dark road. A child has found a new friend, and for this hour, the story waiting outside is stronger than the one inside her notebook. She looks at the paper crown beside the lamp. She could remind him that Sunday was his idea too. She could ask for 10 minutes and hear every one of them counted in the restless movement of his feet. "No," she says. "Go play." "Really?" "Really. Tell me next time whether you won." Noah calls a quick goodbye and disappears before Mark reaches the phone. The screen holds only a chair and a strip of unfamiliar wall. "Mom, I can bring him back," Mark says. "Let him play. I do not want him dragged back to the screen." Mark starts to answer, then the basketball strikes the siding outside and Noah shouts. The call ends without a story, without a thank you, and without another date. Outside, the ball strikes the pavement again, already part of an afternoon she cannot enter. For the rest of the afternoon, the crown remains beside the lamp. The mother does not turn the 4-minute call into a lesson. She does not pretend it was enough. It hurt, and nothing arrived that evening to make the hurt beautiful. Monday passes, then Tuesday. No apologetic message appears. An open hand does not become wise because a gift quickly returns to it. The new map has not erased her name, but it does not place her at the center. No ritual can force a growing child to remain where love first found him. And now the old fear speaks without disguise. If love releases its claim, will anyone freely choose the road back? Scripture answers through a woman who carried that question down a long road with nothing but grief beside her. Her name was Naomi. Naomi went to a foreign country, full, with a husband and 2 sons, and came home empty. Death took all 3. She had nothing left but 2 widowed daughters-in-law and a long road back to Bethlehem. She was so hollowed out that when the women of her town greeted her, she said, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me back empty." Naomi means pleasant. She no longer believed that name belonged to her. Perhaps you know those words without ever speaking them. I gave everything, and now nothing remains. My house is quiet. My place is gone. The pleasant years are behind me. Now notice what bitterness did not make Naomi do. On the road home, she did not cling. She had 2 daughters-in-law, both widowed, and she turned to them and told them to go. "Go back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you." She blessed them out loud and released them, even though she was the one who would be left alone. She refused to hold them by their pity. Orpah received the blessing, kissed Naomi, and still walked away. Naomi watched a figure she loved grow smaller on the road. No voice called Orpah back. The dust settled, and the generous words brought no sudden reward. Notice the order. Naomi blessed both women before she knew who would remain. Orpah went. Ruth stayed. Scripture does not tell us that this release caused the devotion that followed, and we should not pretend it does. It reveals something quieter and more beautiful. Ruth's words were free. "Where you go, I will go. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God." An open hand is not a method for making everyone return. One woman left. One chose the road beside Naomi. Love was not commanded into existence. It spoke with its own mouth. But do not hurry to the end of Naomi's story. The word she spoke at the city gate still stands over the road like a sentence. Its meaning will change in the final scene, and we will return to it. First, we must guard against a counterfeit surrender, because some parents release their grasp only to erase themselves in the name of peace. The heart raises its objection at once. If I stop grasping, will I disappear? If I bless their freedom, must I pretend I no longer want a place at their table? No. Grasping and vanishing are not the only 2 paths. A third way is hidden inside one small word in Paul's letter to the Philippians. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Not only. Paul does not erase your longing. He forbids it from becoming the only need in the room. Your child has a household to guard, and you still have a heart that can be wounded. A quiet phone cannot tell you which truth you are facing. In one house, a daughter falls asleep over a half-written message after settling the children. In another, a son watches his father's name disappear from the screen because the last 3 calls became a trial about how rarely he calls. From your side, both silences sound the same. Love does not demand to be guessed. It asks one honest question and lets truth enter before judgment does. No perfect sentence can command another heart, and no ritual can keep a family from changing. That is where the old song begins. At that limit, one short line from Psalms chapter 16 becomes enough. The lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Those lines were measuring cords laid across an inheritance. They did not shame the land. They revealed the ground still entrusted to one pair of hands. David did not call his portion wide. He called it pleasant. 2 weeks after the first Sunday story, Noah calls on an ordinary Tuesday. It is not a scheduled day. No calendar arranged it. He has lost his first tooth and could not wait for Sunday to show his grandmother the gap in his smile. For 11 minutes, the camera points at his forehead, the ceiling, and finally the tiny tooth balanced in his palm. He has called her first. Not because anyone reminded him, because the news was too big to keep, and hers was the face he wanted to tell it to. It is not the childhood you once imagined sharing. But while he explains the grave plan for the money under his pillow, he is not a photograph, and you are not a spectator. For 11 minutes you are together inside one living moment. When the screen goes dark, do not turn 11 minutes into evidence that you deserved 20. This is not settling for crumbs. It is refusing to let comparison devour the bread that was actually placed in your hands. And for some who are listening, the house is not merely quieter than it used to be. It is truly empty. The chair across the table holds no one now. You buried the voice that once answered yours in the dark. And into that silence, the family of your child did not simply grow important. It became almost the only warmth left to you. Hear this gently then. A grief that heavy can lean on a young family until it bends them, and the harder you lean, the more quietly they step back. Not because they are cruel, because no child was built to be another soul's whole reason to rise in the morning. So bring that weight first to God, who does not divide his holidays, does not run out of hours, and never learns to love someone else more. Then rise and return to living people, to faithful service, and to a life larger than waiting beside one phone. Your child may be one source of warmth. They cannot be asked to become the sun. That place belongs to God, and love grows heavy the moment a human being is made to occupy it. Now we can name the ministry of an elder. Age alone does not heal a family. The gift lies in what the years have placed in your hands. The first trust is memory, and it is asked for when Noah is given a school assignment about a song carried through his family. Mark calls from the new house late one evening. "Mom, what was the hymn Grandma used to sing? I remember only the first line." The mother has not sung it in years. She closes her eyes. At first there is only her own mother's voice, distant and thin. Then the next line returns, followed by another. She begins quietly. Her voice is not as steady as it once was, but the words still know their way. Miles away, Noah stops rustling papers. "Send me the whole song tomorrow," Mark says. "I do not want us to lose it again." The next morning, she records every verse. Halfway through, she remembers that her own mother always changed one word, an alteration no hymn book contains. It belongs only to the version carried through their family. That evening, a message arrives. Noah is singing the altered line in his new room, coming in a little too early. He will never meet the woman who first changed that word. Yet her voice has crossed the distance and entered a house she never saw. The years hold two more trusts, and they will not always arrive looking like comfort. One day, the child at the far end of the phone may be a teenager who has quarreled with his parents and appears at your door, certain that you understand him better than they do. For one dangerous moment, being chosen will feel like justice, and you will be tempted to become the safe person by making his mother the enemy. But a true refuge does not hold a runaway. It keeps him safe long enough to send him home with the truth. If you win his loyalty by making your own child the enemy, you have only given him another place to hide. There will be an hour when the kindest thing your love can do is refuse to become an escape. And one night Mark may call because water is rising behind a wall 6 hours away. Part of you will want the crisis to prove your importance at last. Let it prove something better. Steady his hand toward the valve, give him the name of someone who can help, and let your calm reach him without turning his emergency into your reward. There will be moments in all of this when the old hunger to be first speaks louder than your love. This mother had already felt it once, in her own kitchen, that flash of wanting to win. The mercy was a God who did not let that moment take the first word. Memory, refuge, witness. 3 trusts the young cannot give themselves, and only the old can hold. Now give these trusts a form small enough to carry into one real phone call. Bless, ask, thank. Blessing faces the future. Begin with the person your child chose, and one sentence you can say truthfully. I see how faithfully you care for my son. It does not approve every decision. It refuses to make a marriage pay for your pain. Asking gives longing a shape. Do not ask for more. Ask for Sunday breakfast, a Wednesday call, or one bedtime story by video. Someday is fog, a date is a road, and a request that punishes the word no was a demand before it ever found a gentle voice. Thanks receives what was given without reopening the old account. Do not say, "It went too quickly," when you mean, "You still owe me." Name one good thing the day actually brought and let it stay a gift. Now let one ordinary morning test all 3. 2 days before the holiday, Mark calls while his mother is standing at the counter with the old recipe open and a bag of flour beside it. He tells her they will not make the drive this year. The new job gives him no room around the holiday. Emily is on call, and 6 hours each way with a tired boy is more than the short break allows. The mother's fingers tighten around the edge of the counter. For one hot second, she sees last year's table, before the move, when they were only across town. The sentence rises at once. Of course, now that you live so far, I come after everything else. She does not pretend the sentence never came. She simply refuses to hand it the phone. I understand, she says. It is a long way with a small boy. I would rather have you rested than have you drive through the night to reach my table. Mark does not answer right away. What is it? I cannot tell if you mean that or if you are saying it so I will hear how hurt you are. The mother looks at the flour on the counter. A blessing spoken through clenched teeth can still carry a blade. I mean it, she says. And yes, I am hurt too. I am trying not to make you pay for that. Mark exhales, but the guard does not leave his voice. The last time we came, before the move, you met us at the door, and the first thing you said was how few hours we had. In the car afterward, Noah asked why Grandma was sad that we were already leaving. The mother remembers the doorway. She had meant it as longing. She had not heard how it landed until now. I should not have said that at the door. He thought you did not want us there unless we could stay longer. She could line up her evidence, and all of it would be true, and none of it would change what a child had carried out to the car. The mother closes the recipe book. Then let me ask differently. Not the holiday. Could you come one weekend after? A day that belongs to us while we are inside it, with no clock on the table? There is another pause. The first weekend will not work, Mark says. Noah has a match and Emily is on call. The ache moves through her chest again. The first refusal feels like proof that the whole conversation was only a gentler road toward no. She waits. The second Saturday, Mark says. We will leave before sunrise and come straight to you for breakfast. No trying to reproduce the holiday, just a morning. Not the day she wanted, not the table she had imagined, a real morning freely offered. The second Saturday, the mother says. What time? We will aim for 9:30. With the drive, do not be surprised if it slips. And Mom. Yes? Please do not spend the whole morning reminding us how soon we have to leave. I will need help from heaven, the mother says, but I will not put a clock beside your plate. At 9:20, the pancakes are ready too soon. At 9:40, no car has turned into the drive. At 9:51, a message appears. 2 hours out. Noah lost a shoe at the gas station, long story, coming. The mother reads it and looks at the cooling stack. An empty driveway gathers old thoughts quickly. It can make a delay sound like a lifetime of neglect. She covers the pancakes, slides them into the warm oven, and begins slicing oranges. Near noon, the front door opens. Noah runs in without taking off his coat, taller than the last video call, and stops to see whether she still remembers the dragon. Emily follows with a laptop bag on her shoulder. Mark comes last with a paper bag of coffee. "I know we are hours late," he says. The mother hears how carefully he has prepared the sentence, as if he means to defend the road before he can take off his coat. "It is the morning we chose," she answers. "Come in before the pancakes become history." He looks toward Emily. Something guarded leaves both their faces. "I am sorry," Emily says. "I am on call. It may ring once. I tried to trade the day and no one could take it." Then Noah reaches across the table for the syrup and knocks over the juice. The glass tips across the white tablecloth. Everyone freezes. She lifts the recipe book before the juice can reach it and hands Noah a towel. "Save the oranges," she says. He presses both hands into the towel with the seriousness of a man holding back a flood. Emily slides the orange plate to the far end of the table. Even the dragon, it seems, is holding his breath. When the danger has passed, one blue stain remains near her plate. "I ruined it," Noah whispers. "No," she says, blotting the mark. "Now we can see that you were really here." Emily looks at her, surprised. The phone in the laptop bag begins to ring. All the warmth leaves Emily's face. "I have to answer this." She steps into the hallway. Through the half-open door come numbers and a deadline. The mother lowers the heat under the last pan. When the call ends, Emily returns with the open laptop against her chest. "I have to work for a while. I can do it from the spare room, but I will miss most of breakfast." No hidden explanation follows. The job is simply asking for the hour they had driven 6 hours to share. The mother carries a plate to the spare room and sets it beside the computer. Emily thanks her without looking away from the screen. In the kitchen, Mark pours fresh coffee while Noah begins the dragon's newest adventure, the one that crosses 3 states. The visit continues in pieces. Emily joins them when she can. Twice the laptop calls her away again. No colleague appears to rescue the morning, and no one finds a sentence that makes the interruption feel fair. Before they leave, Emily pauses beside the blue mark on the cloth. "You are sure about the stain?" "I waited too long for this table to worry about the cloth," the mother says. Emily touches her arm. It is not an apology for the broken morning, and the mother does not use it as one. At the door, the mother looks at the half-buttoned coat, the wet mitten, the paper crown Noah has pulled back out of his bag, and the blue mark drying beside her plate. "Thank you for making room for this," she says. After the door closes, the house is quiet again. On the table lies a blue stain. It does not look like the holiday she had planned. The morning was interrupted, late, and shorter than she wanted. It was real while it lasted. The date had changed. The family had not returned to its old order. And that brings us back to Naomi. When Naomi returned to Bethlehem, she gave her grief what sounded like a final name. "The Lord has brought me back empty." She had lost her husband. She had buried both sons. She had returned to a city where every familiar face reminded her of a home that no longer existed. Then Ruth married Boaz. A son was born to them. When the women of Bethlehem came to see the child, they did not speak only to the young mother. They gathered around Naomi and said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer." Naomi took the child. She drew him to her breast. Then the astonishing words were spoken. "A son has been born to Naomi." Ruth had borne the child, but joy had returned to Naomi. God did not raise the dead from their graves. He did not rebuild the former home. He did not return the life she had mourned. He answered not with restoration. He answered with continuation. Here is one of the hidden truths of old age. The Lord does not always return what is gone. Sometimes He allows your love to continue where you can no longer follow it yourself. So do not call a place empty merely because you cannot yet see what will continue from it. Do not measure your life only by holidays held at your table or by news you were the first to hear. You see today's table. God sees the lineage. The child was named Obed. Obed would become the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of David. In the arms of the woman who had returned to Bethlehem empty slept the future of a king.